Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook, and now on TikTok, which has been growing really.
Okay.
We just started a couple days ago, and we're getting all sorts of action over there. So follow us on TikTok
Nice.
at Hawk Blogger. And this is, man, every other week we get to do something that I never thought I'd get to do. I get to spend an hour with a guy whose football card I had pinned to my door growing up, next to Brian Blades and Tommy Kane and a bunch
Nice.
of other
Brian Blake.
Seahawks. And Ray Roberts is with us, Seahawks legend Ray Roberts. How are you doing this morning, Ray?
I'm good, brother. It's a little early for me, but I'm ready to rock and roll and talk some. I mean, when the Seahawks win, it's easy it makes the whole week easier. You know what I'm saying? And
Doesn't it?
yeah, it's like I was telling someone the other day, it felt so good to not have to try to defend Geno. Like, like as soon as the game was over, it was just like, oh man, like we don't have to do this Geno fight this week, and so that felt really good.
You know, it's funny to talk about how your week's better when the Seahawks win. And I think all Seahawks fans certainly understand that. But I'm curious, like, players and fans are different. Like, they just are. And so you've played the game at a very high level, and, you know, you played for multiple franchises. Like, do you consider yourself a Seahawks fan now? Do you kind of rise and fall with them a little bit?
Yeah, I always, even though I actually played longer in Detroit, I've always considered myself a Seahawk because this is where it started for me. This is the first franchise that gave me an opportunity to play. They thought highly enough of me to draft me with their first round draft pick, and I've always lived here. And so even when I played in Detroit, I would come back here during the off season, and sometimes during the off season, I was still doing community stuff for the Seahawks. And so I've just always felt like that, even though I still root for Detroit and all that stuff, but I haven't had a chance to get back to games there and all that kind of stuff. But I've always felt like I was a Seahawk.
Well, the Seahawks had a pretty big win against the Cardinals. We're going to talk about it. We're going to look at film. Before we get into it, they've also got a big game coming up against the Packers. And I just want folks to know I'm doing something pretty crazy, and I don't have time to be doing it, but I'm trying it anyway. I'm trying to make sure this is going to be the highest price ticket of the year because of the way they do variable pricing for season ticket holders, which makes it more likely that people are going to sell their tickets. And the Packers are a fan base that travels pretty well, and they'll probably be willing to pay good money to get those seats. So I've started a Seahawks fan registry where Seahawks fans can list tickets that they want to sell to just Seahawks fans, and Seahawks buyers can register if they want to buy those tickets. It's up on the blog at hawkblogger.com. We've already sold 20 plus tickets to Seahawks fans. We've got another 60 plus listed. These range from 300 level to club and charter seats, parking passes or no. And we've got hundreds of buyers that are signed up. So I am manually emailing, multiple times a day as we get new seats available and we get these seats sold. So let's keep Lumen Field a Seahawks centric experience as much as possible. And I want to do what I can to help. So I just wanted to give that a quick plug if people didn't know about it over there at hawkblogger.com.
Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty awesome, man. And I hope people aren't going to double dip it and try to try to buy them and then flip them again. But I do agree with what you're saying, though, is that it's been really not disturbing, but disappointing sometimes during the season where you look across the field and you see all the other teams' colors there. And even like sometimes loud enough that, Gino and those guys have had to go to like a silent count, a couple times at home. And so we've always had an advantage crowd that way. I know that the product on the field at one point during the season may not have been what people wanted to see, but man, at this point right now, this is the push, and we need all the fans, all the Seahawks fans to be there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate that, and I certainly can't promise what the reaction, how people will handle this. So far, there's been mostly good behavior, and gonna try. We'll see what we can do. And even if we get
try, brother. Hey.
If we get 20, 30, 40, 50 seats that are turned to Seahawks fans and not to Packers fans, I'll take it. So So let's talk about this game, man. The game against the Cardinals, and this felt like maybe the most convincing win against a quality opponent in in the stadium where they've been playing really well, hadn't allowed a touchdown in 3 games. They knew what this game meant for their division title hopes, and the Seahawks kind of stole their soul on their home field. What did you see in this game?
I thought that even considering the way the season started, because the running game was still struggling back then, that this was the most complete game from top to bottom for this staff and the play on the field. I thought the defense was locked in with their play calling, with how guys are committed to and owning their roles and what they need to do on their assignments. And I felt like the offense, obviously with the running game going, was looked like the way that I think they want to play football. And I thought that Grubb called a really good game. And it looks like, in short yardage situations that they had a plan. Like they spent some time really thinking through what the defense is going to do, or trying to anticipate what the defense is doing, and then trying to make some, doing something to kind of mitigate, those situations and be successful in them. And so from top to bottom, everything, it just felt like, everything that they wanted to get accomplished in the way that they wanted to get it accomplished all happened on Sunday. And so that felt pretty good.
Well, I think a lot of folks around the NFL don't know what to make of the Seahawks, right? Like
Yeah.
they started off strong, but they didn't play anyone impressive. Then they just went real low, real fast, and looked, on a lot of national TV, like when they played against 49ers on Thursday Night Football, the defense that they showed against Detroit on Monday Night Football, the loss to the Giants, the Bills game was kind of a national prime time. It wasn't prime time, but it was a national game. What do you make of this Seahawks team?
To me, I'm like the state of Missouri, dude. I'm a show me state, and you showed me, but you got to show me over and over and over again. So I'm not gonna sit here and say, hey, the running game has arrived, and like this is gonna be the offense we're gonna have. I'm pretty sold on that. The front seven on the defense is who they are. Doesn't mean they're not going to give up a big play. Like even in this game, the first drive, they went right down the field and scored. But I do have a little bit more faith in the defense that they are who they are saying they are. On offense, it's still, you still got to prove it to me that you can go out, and I don't care if they're a good defense, a bad defense, they can rush the quarterback, can't rush the quarterback, run stoppers or not. Like you have to go out and show me again that you can show up and play that way. And you don't have to rush for 150 yards or whatever, but you got to be successful in the running game in a way that you can bring balance to the offense. And then because then Geno gets to be Geno. And that's the thing I don't think people really understand is that if you want to understand the pressure that was on Geno, look at how this game went. You know what I'm saying? We hardly ever said his name. You know what I'm saying? There was nothing to complain about. He wasn't trying to, with all the heroics and all this other, he didn't need to. And so I think this is the biggest indictment on all these fans that think that Geno can't play, because look at what he was having to do to win football games. And so, but they got to show me that they can do it again. So like one game isn't gonna, and also it's good to be in a position right now where nobody really knows what to make of you. Because there's going to be some teams that might sell them short. There's going to be some teams that's going to be surprised when they play them. That kind of stuff. Like, what are you preparing for? Are they going to run Charbonnet or McIntosh or K9, or are they doing the pin and pull, or they going back? Like, what is the make of them? You know what I'm saying? I think a little bit of that mysterious piece is really good. I love the way when the Patriots were rocking and rolling. And people get so caught up into like, oh, what is the identity of the team? Blah, blah, blah. The Patriots were whoever they needed to be. that was their identity. Like, and so you couldn't say, oh, they're power running team, or they're zone running team, or they're blitzing defense, or this defense. It's not like we're going to be who we need to be to win the football game. And so going down the stretch, it's kind of good to have a little bit of that edge of mysterious to your team right now.
I love that. And it makes me think, if a fly sneezes on a helmet in New York, it's covered. If the cowboy like hiccups, it's covered. Everybody knows everything about what's going on with those teams. When something happens in Seattle, it takes a while to make its way, even in this current age of like digital, social media, everything. It takes a little while for people to kind of know what's going on in Southern Alaska, as Matt Hasselbeck used to call it. And so I agree with you. It's kind of that fun, like they're at the building stages, right? Like this season is, I don't want to put a cap on it, but this season's never really been about winning a Super Bowl. I mean, you want to, it'd be great if that happened, but it's about new beginnings, new coaching staff, new players, new schemes, and seeing if you can have some foundation that come next year you can build on top of, level one, level two, right? And so it feels like the run defense was initially the biggest thing that it was awful. You and I spent a lot of time talking about it. We're going to look at some things here in a few minutes that it's going to feel like night and day. And that they've got that as a one foundational piece. And then there's been other aspects, but the run game on offense and the offensive line play in general feels like this other bit that they've been chipping away at, right? Chipping away at.
Yeah.
And both of us, but I want to focus on you. You saw this coming before it came. You were talking about this run game coming before it happened. What did you see before, and what did you see during this game?
Yeah, so if you go back to the San Francisco game when they inserted Olu at center and then Big Abe, in that San Francisco game, the foundations of this kind of pin and pull thing were working really well. Like I was surprised that between Bradford before he was injured and Olu, they were getting really good movement on the double teams. And then on the other side, Tomlinson and Cross were getting moved like in that kind of dual zone thing they were doing. But then like the tight ends were missing blocks, or like somebody would be just a little bit off, and the tackle would be made. So they weren't being able to take advantage of those double teams. And but then those double teams kept getting better, better and better and better. And then on Sunday, it seems like all the other pieces around the double team came to the party. They came to the party ready to dance, and they did a really good job of the tight ends. Were blocking better than they have all year. I don't know if it was a renewed emphasis on it in practice or something, but there were times where you thought like, man, these tight ends, they might be willing to block, but they can't block. They can't block anybody. And but there were some plays where they blocked really, really well, especially on that fly sweep touchdown that Charbonnet ran. All three tight ends drove their dudes, like had a hat on a hat, and then Charles Cross finished it off, and then it was a touchdown. And so I think that it was when they would talk about like how they're kind of chipping away at things the same way they were chipping away at the defense and trying to figure that out. That was happening on this offensive line. It just wasn't. There were just other little pieces that were keeping it from being successful, and then it just kind of all came together on Sunday. It was a beautiful thing.
When something like that happens, Ray, how much of that do you think comes from the offensive coordinator? How much of it comes from the offensive line coach? How much of it comes from wherever else? How does that even happen?
Yeah, it's I don't know if you can put percentages and stuff, but it's like playing Tetris. It takes all those different pieces to come into an alignment at the right time, and they did. So like I think Grubb kind of started figuring out like what types of schemes that they can run. I think probably Huff went back to like coaching those little things that they were coaching in training camp that they were doing really, really well in training camp practice, and they just weren't making it to the field. Like I know that you did that thing about the short yardage stuff, and some people can overthink it and everything, but what I saw was bad technique a lot. And like I posted like a 6 inches can gain 5 to 6 yards. And but if you don't take that 6-inch step, you can lose 5 or 6 yards. It's like sometimes it's that simple. And so you can see the technique of things being better. And then I'm not gonna lie, man, in this last game, Charbonnet's style of running fit what they want to do better than what K9 typically can do. And so I'm not saying that K9 wouldn't have taken advantage of the blocking, But on the plays where it didn't quite work, I think you'd have had more negative yardage. I think with the run game, there was only a -1 yard in the run game for the whole game. And that's important because 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8, 2nd and 7 is way different than 2nd and 11, 12, or 13. And your playbook is just really condensed at that point. And so I think it was just a combination of things kind of coming together. And I'm not going to say that that their run defense was the best run defense in the world, but they didn't run the ball super well against them the first time. And so this, to me, a lot of things kind of came together. And the other thing too is it just seemed like the energy from everybody being responsible for the running game was different. Like DK is always doing his thing, but like the tight ends, like I said, seemed a little bit more locked in on running because it takes everyone to make the run game go, not just the offensive line. And so, but you saw a different energy. It's like the awareness of what your role in the running game has been elevated, and guys have been are blocking and playing that way.
You've talked about all the players in the offensive line. You've talked about a mix and match where some guys look like maybe they were better at a zone block, and other guys maybe better at gap man blocking. And then you talk about this energy piece. As soon as you said energy, the first guy that came to mind is that Tawalamea. And I haven't had a chance to talk to you about him. We haven't talked to you since the Jets game. Obviously, 6th-round rookie, getting his first few starts. But this guy's shown a lot of emotion on the field that isn't as typical of what we've seen from other linemen. I'm curious what you've seen from him through 2 games.
Yeah, like the emotion thing to me is like, I don't really, you can have all the emotion in the world and go get your ass kicked. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I don't really like pay a whole lot of attention to that part. But the part that I love about him is that like you can see his willingness to want to finish every block. And sometimes the willingness to want to finish is the Band-Aid to a lot of different things because he kind of plays sometimes a little bit out of control. Sometimes he plays a little bit too high. He's gone, like I think one time, at least twice he's pulled when he wasn't supposed to pull, like different things like that. You know what I'm saying? He's missed like TE stunts, things like that. And so he still looks like a rookie out there. But the thing I love about him, and this is what I loved about Christian too, is that those dudes were always working to finish. And so I think that in him has been a little bit contagious. The other thing too, I think the advantage that he's had over Christian is that they just said, hey, this is yours to lose. And so that puts you in a different mindset than, hey, every other play, I have to be perfect or I'm going to get pulled out of the game. I hate the way they treated Christian Haynes in this whole thing because I don't think that they were ever intending to have him be the starter. I think they were trying to use him to get Bradford started. And then when that didn't work, then they were just stuck. And now you've kind of you've kind of damaged the confidence of a dude that I thought could have played. And so hopefully he can regain that confidence. But with Lamea, they just said, hey, this is yours to lose. You're in a totally different mindset when you're playing that way. So he's playing a little bit more free. I do like, we have some pretty stoic dudes on the offensive line, and so the energy part is good to see. I just don't buy into it as much as other people do because sometimes I play with dudes that have all the energy in the world, and Warren Sapp was killing them. You know what I'm saying? So I don't buy into it that much, but I do like the athleticism that he brings. I think he is probably the key to the pin and pull thing because he blocks very well on the run. If you notice, most of those plays, I know a few of them were left to right because you got to change it up every now and again, but most of them were right to left because Tomlinson misses a lot on the pull, and Lamea wasn't missing, and so I think that he may have been the guy that unlocked that pin and pull a little bit for him.
Well, that was the last question I had. I mean, I have a million before we get into watching the film with you. Is do you feel like this 5 on the line are more aligned, I guess, in terms of what their strengths are, in terms of what kind of blocking they can do? You just talked about where Lamea might have made it easier to run some of these schemes or make them better at running some of these schemes?
Yeah, I hope so. I really do, because they talked about wanting to be a physical football team. And when you run pin and pull, those are physical plays. Those are plays where you're telling the other team, we're coming to hit you right in the mouth. And so those aren't plays, like I told you before, that you cut back on. you go get those 2 or 3 yards, and then hopefully as the game goes on, 2 or 3 turn to 4 or 5, 4 or 5 turn into 10, 10 turn into 20. You know what I'm saying? Like those are those types of plays. And so they've been able, and even hearing some of the rumblings around that game, Huff was on the sideline drawing plays up on the sideline, going like, oh, when they're in this deep, let's run it like this, or let's change it like that. And so in the moment, they were doing some things that were kind of helping them win. But when I think of how they want to play football and how the Ravens run the football and how because I think there's a part of them that want to be that type of team, in the way that the Detroit plays football. Those are the types of teams that they want to be compared to. They want to play physical football that way. And I love K9 to death, and you can't take away his instincts and things like that. But when you call these types of plays, you can't hesitate to think about what's back here. You have to just put your hand on the back of that freaking tackle or that tight end or the guard, whoever is pulling up in the hole in front of you, and you just need to go get what's there. And that strategy worked well for them on Sunday.
Well, we're certainly hoping that we get good news today on the Kenneth Walker injury front. Did not sound great on Monday when they said they were getting more tests and waiting for results. So when I heard it was just a calf, the thing that reminded me of was when Christian McCaffrey in preseason, all of a sudden it was a calf injury, and that calf injury was an Achilles injury. And so let's hope it's nothing, because even when Kenneth Walker, has some areas to grow, as a lot of the guys on the team do, he's an absolute dynamic weapon, and you want him available, and you want him to have a chance to learn to run behind an effective line, as opposed to what's been happening for a lot of the years. So
absolutely. I love too, on our broadcast team, at the end of the game, we do like an MVP and then an unsung hero, or unsung player. And my unsung player was Kenny McIntosh, because we've been waiting for 2 years to see what this guy can do and give him a chance. And he had limited chances, but he did great with it. He did well running the ball. He showed explosion. He showed vision. He ran with a little bit of power and attitude as well. And then he had a couple catches out of the backfield. And so it was really cool to see that, because to me, now you've created some real competition in the running back room. And that's the thing, because dudes want to, not that they're trying to say I'm the best or I'm going to be the starter or whatever, but the guys are going like, in order for me to keep getting reps, I got to keep showing up like this. And so that just kind of elevates the whole room. And then for guys that I'm not saying this is K9, but for dudes that are like, oh, this thing doesn't feel quite right, I'm not going to play today. I had a dude that I played with here in Seattle. You can't make the club in the tub. That's what he's always saying. So if you're in that running back room, it ain't the time to be in the tub, bro. Because if this O-line is rocking and rolling the way they did, there's yards to be gained out there for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're talking to Big Ray Roberts on Big Ray's Rewind. And let's go ahead and get into the official rewind, Ray. So this first play is one you wanted to highlight around Tyrese Knight right here on a run fit, I believe. Let's play it once, and then you can talk us through it. So what did you see on this play that you wanted to highlight?
And I mean, those dudes are good players, but Baker and Dotson, this is what they wanted to be able to do, but they could never do it. And this is like slip that block, level off to the line of scrimmage, shoulder steal square to the line of scrimmage, and then go make the tackle. And so when people are saying like, oh, well, Dotson this and Dotson that, on these plays, he was getting blocked by that offensive lineman, and then that play was breaking through for big yardage. And on this play here, I just love, and this is what Coach McDonald talked about him a lot in the preseason, is that sometimes you don't like the way he gets to the tackle, but this joker is a tackling machine. And this is what makes it possible for him. So he can slip the block this way and then still square off. His shoulders are still square to the line of scrimmage, got underneath the block, and he made the tackle, which is the big thing. A lot of times we saw the Dotson trying to run underneath tackles, and he would get blocked by the guard or he'd get caught up by the tackle. And then instead of him going over the top, all of a sudden it's a big play. And so I always said, like, the only person I knew that could go under blocks consistently like this and make tackles was Junior Seau. He was great at it. And Dotson was not that. And I'm not saying that Tyrese Knight is that. I'm just saying that he has the ability and the knack for doing that and making the play and not getting caught up in the wash and being a detriment to the play for the defense. So to me, like, this is the epitome of why he's in there and Dotson and Baker are not.
You know, I love this call out, and it makes me think, Ray, there's some comparisons, at least in roster building, between running backs and linebackers in that, you know, similar value. A lot of people think that you can be a good player pretty quickly at both positions in the league, and they're both kind of undervalued in the market, like in terms of price you pay for them. But there's a little bit of running back to being a linebacker, right? You're avoiding blockers as opposed to avoiding defenders. But I think there's some like instinct to what your point is. This isn't necessarily some great coaching. This is just a guy who can find his way through the mess.
It reminds me of like, and I always say this, he reminds me of like Cliff Averill, but he's at the linebacker. Because Cliff, like I said, this dude, it's not like he had like the greatest spin move and an unbelievable speed rush or a rip or whatever it was. But this dude was just slippery, and he knew how to get around dudes to impact the passing game and or to make a tackle in the backfield. It wasn't the biggest, strongest, most like dominating looking person on the field, but this dude was just a good football player that had great instincts, like you're talking about, and knew how to succeed in what they were asking him to do. And Tyrese Knight feels that way to me. And so someone was asking me, you know, hey, are these the two linebackers for the next 4 years? And I'm saying this, if Tyrese Knight, if this is the best that we're going to see of him, then he won't be here. He won't be here for 4 years to do that. But if he keeps improving on what he's putting on tape, then yes, he and Jones will be the two linebackers here for a long time.
One real quick thing, watching EJ here, Ernest Jones, what he's signaling ahead of the snap here. See that little hand movement there?
Yeah.
He seemed to have a pretty good idea of exactly what was coming, and you just have to think that he is helping Tyrese Knight quite a bit on the field as a rookie, you know, coming into this.
Yeah, and I mean, and he's helping the whole defensive front there, because normally when you're calling something out, you're saying like you've gotten from your film study, you've seen something, you go like, oh, when they're in this position on the field at this point in the game and that formation, when that guy shifts in motion like that, there's a great chance that they're running right here, or he's yelling, hey, counter, or trap or pull or whatever it is. And so the whole defense has been on alert for that. And it kind of showed in that play right there.
Well, we got more from the two linebackers here. So let's watch this one. I got Ernest Jones and Tyrese Knight. Talk to us about what on this play got your attention.
It's the same thing. Both of them did the exact same thing. They both flipped underneath the block. Like Jones, the thing I like about Jones is he can take on blocks like an old school linebacker and shed him and make the tackle, but he can also do this where he dips underneath the block. Both of them dipped like the same exact technique. But the cool thing is, instead of them still running up the field, they got horizontal and closed the door. Because if they stay straight up the field, man, you might be able to squeak through there and they, you know, make them miss a arm tackle, and that might be a touchdown. But they were able to close the door at the same time. They used the exact same technique, squared off to the line of scrimmage, kept the shoulder square, and shut the door on this running play. And that was not the type of play that we were seeing from any of the linebackers that were here before. So for anyone that thinks like, you know, hey, this guy was a good player and all this other kind of stuff, and they don't know what they're doing, and why would they? This is why these two dudes are playing. It's because they can do this stuff, and they do it consistently. And do they get burned every now and again? Absolutely. but have they given up 80-yard touchdown runs? Have they missed a bunch of tackles? Have they gotten blocked when they're supposed to be getting free to make plays like this? They do this so consistently. And so I just love the way they both use that technique and then got square to the line of scrimmage to close that hole that may have opened up for the running back to get through there. So it was just another thing to show how these dudes are doing it differently and succeeding in it versus how the linebacker play was before. Those other two dudes, great football players. They can run. They can, they play the pass very well, all that kind of stuff. But they were just not fit to play defense the way that this group wanted them to play defense. Because since they've inserted these two dudes, the whole defense has been settled down. And so you can say like, well, Leonard Williams is playing better or this thing, but it was those two dudes that brought some type of I don't want to say comfort, but like peace, stabilization of the defense in the middle of it, and it was because they can make plays like this.
This is a perfect example of why I love this show with you, because I remember this play. I don't think I would have picked this play out of a million, but I completely see now what you're calling out. And to your point about the other, Baker and Dodson, it's like, yes, everybody's capable of these plays at a time, but was the good play the exception, or was the good play the rule? And in this case,
exactly.
Is the mistake the exception, or is the mistake the rule? And in this case, you're saying it's basically you got the opposite from these two guys that you're getting before, where this is what you're generally getting play in, play out. And every once in a while you get something that's not as great, but a defense can operate when you get that kind of play from the linebacker position, especially this defense.
Because even if those two tackles just get enough to kind of knock them off their track, if they had to go laying out like this for just a little bit, that's probably a touchdown, or at least they're running to the safety right there. But they were able to slip the blocks, get back square to the line of scrimmage and close the gap on that play. And just for both of them to be using the same exact technique and be able to succeed in it, man, it's a beautiful thing.
One last thing on this, just another chance to marvel at Leonard Williams. This huge guy gets all the way upfield, gets around his guy, and then he's diving in on that tackle. That's pretty special from a 300-pounder. So nice. Yeah,
and this dude has all the talent in the world, but to me, his greatest talent is his relentless effort, dude. He just does not stop, and you don't normally see that from a guy that big, And maybe like this year, the big dude Carter in Philadelphia is kind of playing that way. But when people ask me about what makes him hard to block, it's that type of effort that makes it hard to block.
All right, let's move on to some more on the defense. We're going to look at Boye Mafe here. Talk to us about what you saw in this play.
Yeah, I think, because Boye hasn't had the sack numbers and stuff, I don't think people really understand his value to the team as a run defender, because this is a hard play to make. Like this, he's 4 or 5 or 6 gaps away from where the ball is intended to go. And he's able to defeat his defender. And in about 2 steps, he has a guy in the backfield. And so sometimes a play like that kind of goes unnoticed because we're expecting the edge rushers to get all the sacks. But this dude has become a complete football player. And he hasn't always, the sack totals and stuff have slowed down this year. I think, with the rotation being a little bit deeper, guys can get fresh and he can start, being more impactful. But the way he is just able to defeat that block, get down the line of scrimmage, and then be able to make the tackle for a loss, I think people may take that for granted and think that's just an easy thing to do. And that is a really hard thing to do. And he is a player, to me, who is from the very first day he hit the field for practice here in Seattle, he's done nothing but get better and better and better and better and better. And this is just another indication of how much better he's gotten. Because, it's a tight end trying to block him or whatever, and it's easy to kind of like allow yourself to be blocked in that situation. But this dude is a playmaker in the run game, in the passing game, and I just don't want people to forget about that part of his game.
Can you talk for a second here about the kind of late movement? Some people call it stemming, I guess, right before the snap. We've been seeing a little bit more of that. You see Leonard Williams move inside, and then you see Mafe, and it seems like that's a big part of how he gets to beat this block.
Yeah, so a lot of times, based on where that running back is, they're going to make adjustments because they're anticipating a run a certain way or a certain play. And so you'll see a lot of that kind of late stemming. I don't know if they would have stemmed if the running back hadn't moved, And so usually it's part of the chess match to try to move it. Now, obviously, and sometimes in tough situations, you try to do that to draw the offensive line offside. But I think in this situation, it's just a defensive adjustment to the strength of where they declared the strength of the defense. So they're adjusting to it. But and yeah, it helps Mafe in a way. But this dude is, I just love the way this guy plays, man. And we've like in the preseason, he made a play where, or maybe it's against the Rams, I can't remember, but he was on the left side of the defense and he ran all the way to the right side and hit the quarterback and made it a fumble that Derek Hall picked up and ran for a touchdown. And so like his effort is unbelievable, and his awareness of what's happening is very very strong. And I know we haven't heard a lot of their names called in the last few weeks, but this dude has been playing really good football in the running game. And even though he hasn't been getting pressure, as much pressure and sacks, and he got a pressure in this game that Hankins ended up taking advantage of and getting a sack out of. But this guy is becoming a complete football player, and Derek Hall is too. And I just love the way that he's playing football right now.
One guy, speaking of guys that I think don't get a lot of attention, and maybe if they do, it's negatives, Draymond Jones. And I thought on this play, 100% agree with you on the Mafe piece, but I thought this is a pretty nice rep from Draymond Jones as well. What he does to the right tackle here, he just stands him up. I mean, you've taught us this before. Like, that's not the position you want to be in as an offensive line, straight up and down. And him setting that edge, also slowed down the back there a little bit. You can see these stutter steps that the back takes because he knows he can't get to where he's intended to go.
Yeah, and honestly, if you freeze the ball right here, like all the gaps are covered. There's really nowhere for the running back to go. If he cuts it back, if he decided to take a different gap, if he tried to bounce outside, like this is what I say when players are dominating their assignments versus just achieving their assignments. Like they are dominating their assignments right here. And it gives Mafe a chance to then make this tackle for a loss, even though he's, 8 gaps away from where the ball is intended to go. And part of that is Draymond Jones. I think Draymond Jones has done better when he hasn't played over the tight end. And so or playing to the weak side of the offense. I think he's shown up a little bit better, but I also do think that he's getting his playing legs, he missed all the training camp, and it takes a while to kind of get yourself back in shape to really play the way you want to play. And I think he's playing a lot better football right now as well.
Can I also, this is probably a little mean, but look how small he is.
Oh yeah. Every time they put the camera on him when he's running out on the field, it's just like, is this a little league football game? Like I just can't. He's so tiny, man. It's unbelievable.
He is very small. He is very small. All right, this is the play maybe that everybody will remember from this game. Talk to us about the big 51-yard touchdown from Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah, well, first of all, this is like a traditional counter play. Like this is how, when the counter was first introduced to football, this is how it was run. So like you've seen in other recent years, they've pulled a guard and a tight end, or center and the tight end or the fullback or what have you. This is a true guard tackle counter play, and this is honestly like my favorite play in the history of the world. Like I love running this play when I played. Like there's a poster that they sent out of me in college where for like all the awards and offensive line, Lombardi awards, and they told me to draw a play up on the chalkboard behind me. I drew this play up, and our head coach was like, "Hey man, like don't show them like all our plays." So I had to erase like one of the lines. You know what I'm saying? But I was drawing this play up, and the thing I love about this is you can see those down blocks and those double team opportunities, especially right here between Charles Cross and Lincoln. Like we were getting not that kind of movement. We were getting movement in those blocks in the San Francisco game, but maybe we were like we'd miss the kick out block or the trap block by the guard, or if the tight end was in there, the tight end would like miss his block, or one of the backside tackle might have gotten beat inside, or the backside, the center blocking back might get beat across his face or something like that. So there's little things that were stopping him from running. But on this play, the key blocks to this play, even though you're following Abe in this gigantic hole, I don't know if Seven made a business decision or Abe just missed him, but LaMea with the LaMea with the kick out block. And then I love the way he just laid on top of him to let him know, like, yeah, your play is over right now. Like, there's nothing else you're going to be able to do. You can't get up and try to chase the ball down. You're going to be right here until this play is over. And so I love that about him. And then the other part of it is that the way Charles Cross, the play that usually to make really long plays like this, you have to block somebody in that third level. And Charles Cross had the awareness to come off the double team, which is usually going to some linebacker way backside, and take this safety coming over the top. And that is what opened the gate to the 51-yard touchdown. Otherwise, it could have been like a nice run for like 10 yards. But that coming off the double team and then making that block right there is what opens it up. And then it's off to the races. Then it's a matter of who's the fastest dude. And Charbonnet had enough speed to get there on the 50. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know he could make it. I'm like, oh, this is cool. They'll probably catch him about right now. And I'm like, oh, dang, he's gonna score. And so that was pretty cool, man. And the thing I love about this is that, like I said, this is downhill, physical. We think that we can out physical you, punch you in the mouth football. And that's how they want to play. And it's important that, like if you rewind it, right when Charbonnet was like really close to, I'm gonna tell you when to stop it right now. Like to me, before he was like went up into the gap, I feel like K9 might have went like, oh, and then it might have been just one little hesitation, and then he would have been taking advantage of the blocking, and that could have been the difference between a really nice 10-yard run or a 51-yard touchdown. And so I'm not saying that I think K9 is a dynamic player. You got to keep him in the system. You got to feed him the ball, whether you're throwing it to him or handing it to him. But on these types of plays, he has to know, I'm just following this convoy of dudes I have, and I'm either going to get 2 yards, 5 yards, 10 yards, 51 yards. But on this play, this is not the one to hesitate and think about cutting it back. This is the one. This is the one to say, I'm following my big boy up into this hole.
I love that from you. You mentioned earlier, put your hand on your lineman, follow the thing, and notice like Charbonnet does not lose speed, and he just makes the one cut. Like there's a decisiveness. Like this is not as clear of a read. Like he could have just kept trying to go this direction, but his vision here was pretty darn good to see that this cutback was going to open up at full speed. Like he's not slowing down when he's making that cut. He just sees, I think he sees white jersey and he's like, I'm getting behind that guy now. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, he's always like, even though, we always celebrate his power and physicality, there's plays where he's shown like the ability to make people miss, to cut back against the grain, like that type of stuff. He's shown like the vision stuff, but we've been awed more by like his power when he runs people over, or sticks his forearm in someone's face mask, that type of stuff. But if you watch his runs, he has a lot of runs where he's making guys miss, or finding having vision that you may not have thought he had, because he seems like a straight line runner. But he showed in this game that if the blocking is matched well with how he runs the football, he can be a very effective runner in the NFL.
That's big. All right, let's look at the last play, and then we'll talk a little Packers before we get you out of here into your day. Yeah. So this is the final one. This is the weekly Devon Witherspoon moment.
I mean, the thing about him is, he looks like he's, like when you play the video games, there's a turbo button you can push. that makes the running back go faster, or the person you're controlling go faster. It seems like as soon as the play starts, whoever has selected him to control him has that turbo button pressed down the entire time. He always seems like he's moving faster than everyone else. His trigger, his reading, his recognition of the play, and then his reaction to the play is way faster than everyone else's. And then his ability to close so fast, and then for him to be the smallest dude on the field and to play with the physicality that he doesn't always just go in and try to make a shoestring tackle. He tries to give you all 175 or 80 pounds or whatever it is. He's hitting you with every single pound of that. And I love that about him. The more I watch him, when I watch a defensive film, I look for him first, because I'm just like, I want to see what this guy's doing. Even if he's not even part of the play, I just want to see what he's doing to like impact the dude that's trying to block him. You know what I'm saying? Or is he talking to the sideline? Like, what in the heck is this guy doing? And this play, just look at the amount of space that he covers, and then he gets there, and a lot of guys will miss that tackle, and then the other guys are rallying to make the tackle, and then maybe that guy picks up another 8 or 9 yards. But in this one, this dude is moving at like warp speed, and he plays that way all the time. And this play just demonstrates his ability to recognize the play and then trigger a reaction to get to the place to make the play for a minimal gain.
All right, we're gonna play it in a second, and I got to just say a couple things. One, his reactions, like he's breaking on this, ball's not even out of the hands. No one else. I mean, you got a little bit here, but that's, I think, his reaction to this receiver. Right. Nobody else is seeing what he's seeing, right? Like nobody else is that decisive. Ball's not even out of his hands. The other thing I will admit is, as we play this through, right there, I was watching this in the stadium. And I was like, "Oh man, he's gonna get around. He's gonna get around." I didn't know who this. I didn't know who this was at the time. I was like, "He's gone. Yeah. He's gone." Like now, maybe Rayshawn covers that ground. Who knows? But like, I thought at the time there's no way they were gonna whoever that was gonna get him. And then not only does it get him, it's for a 1 yard loss.
Yeah,
like that's insane.
To me, like this is what makes him a different type of player. There's guys that can cover and make plays like that, but not a lot of guys can cover and then to come up and make a tackle like this and be willing to make the tackle like that. Like he's a guy that wants to be an enforcer in the run game just as much as he wants to be a defender in the passing game. And for a guy his size and the energy that he plays with and the amount of plays that he's playing, man, it's incredible. Like I don't even think that I was fully giving him the respect that his play deserves until I saw this play. Because I was thinking I was just thinking like, man, they're going to get him on this one. Like I just thought that they had snuck him out of the backfield, that he was going to be able to make something out of it. And then out of the blue, 21 just flashed. And you're like, oh, well, that play's over. And I love the cockiness that he plays with. Like this dude has so much confidence in himself. And even in his shortcomings, his cockiness overcomes all of that. And he's able to show up in a big way all the time.
I mean, you know the Tasmanian Devil, like the old cartoon? Like that's who he reminds me of. Just like creates havoc.
And you know the thing I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go.
It was like a lot of times when you were talking about guys that play with energy and all that kind of stuff and all this excitement and all this stuff, this dude plays fast and furious like this, but he's never out of control. Like he is always under control of what it is that he's trying to do. And so you don't see him just running up and then like all of a sudden he's overrun the guy and he's reaching back and he missed a tackle. You know, you don't see stuff like that. This dude is playing at unbelievable speed and then unbelievable freedom, but he's under control in what he's doing and what he's trying to get accomplished. And so that's why when I say LeMaya has all this energy, but man, sometimes he misses the TE game or pulled the wrong way or over went too hard for a block and the dude swam him, like stuff like that. Energy is great, but man, sometimes it impacts his execution of things. But this dude seems to be on point all the time at the pace that he plays.
Well, yeah. I mean, for me, put this on a poster. This guy's iconic. He's iconic. There's no other way to describe him. And I certainly love watching him play. Ray, we only got you for a couple more minutes before we switch over and do our first look preview of the Packers game. Tell us what you're looking for in this Sunday night football game against the Packers. There's been a lot of memorable Packers games in Seattle over the years. What do you think is going to happen in this one?
Well, I still think the defense has to make the offense one-dimensional. Jordan Love is a good quarterback, but he's also shown that he'll give you opportunities to take the ball away. So they're going to have to shut the running game down first, because the way they showed up in the running game in the stretch of games, people are going to think that defense is still out there. So they're going to test you in the running game first and foremost. They want to see, are you up for the challenge today? So they're going to have to prove that they're up for the challenge to stop in the running game again this week to make Jordan Love or then that offense one-dimensional. And then on offense, I think that, I hope that what the offensive line showed us, because obviously people are going to see the film and then come up with ways to kind of attack what they're doing. If they can make the right adjustments but still be efficient in the running game to be able to gain yards and keep the offense ahead of the chains, and then also keep Geno in a place where Geno can do what he does best. Geno is a very good pocket passer, can make all the freaking throws, and he's better when he can just step up and throw, or step up and slide and throw. He's not the dude that run that's not his forte, running all over the place and then trying to make a play. That's him in desperation, trying to be the offense. So if he doesn't have to be the offense again this week, then I think they have a great chance of coming out victorious.
Great stuff as always, Ray. Anything coming up for you on Big Ray's Garage Grind?
Yeah, so we just released or posted yesterday. I did a live audience podcast down at the VMAC with two of the representatives from the Mindful Therapy Group. So we're on stage, and we had an audience of about 30 Seahawks employees there, and we did a live recording of that podcast, and so we just posted it yesterday. And so there's some very good stuff in there. We took questions from the audience, but we didn't record it because we didn't want people to feel restricted in what they could ask and be afraid of that. But it was a really good response from the audience. It's the first of many that we hope to record live that way. And there's some really good tips in there on how to prepare yourself to protect your mental health through the holidays.
Awesome. Amazing stuff that you do, and always appreciate you coming on this show. And hopefully we get to see a fifth straight win, and this thing gets a little interesting if the Seahawks start beating teams like the Packers and the Vikings. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you having me on. I love the effort with the tickets, and I love your diving into the Seahawks and really trying to give the fans and your followers like some real valuable information. Speaking of how you broke down the short yardage stuff, so it's good stuff.
Appreciate that, man. Absolutely. Yeah. You're a big part of the education. So that is Big Ray Roberts. Make sure you follow him. Thanks to Ray. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, Ray. And folks, if you haven't given the show a like and click subscribe, please do. Also, make sure you tune in. We're going to be switching to a different stream. So remember, I do separate streams for Big Ray's show because some people just want to watch that hour. We'll be doing the second hour. First look will start in a little bit, so keep an eye on the blog, or not the blog, on YouTube to see that. We'll start that in a few minutes here. And then also make sure that you head over to jkboots.com, use code HawkBlogger. This will get you access to 10% off, give you a chance to win this pair of boots right here. Seahawks themed boots, blue insole, blue laces, gray bison leather, some green backing there. Just an amazing custom boot. Also has got the HB logo on it. So amazing stuff there that you can get access to. And we will also be making more donations to the Wildland Firefighters Foundation. We've already donated twice and given 2 firefighters a free pair of boots. So a great way to support. Use code HawkBlogger over there at jkboots.com. We will see you all in a few minutes. I'll talk to you deeply about this Packers matchup. A lot of insights I found. Spent way too many hours breaking this game down yesterday. Looking forward to that. I will see you all very shortly. Until then, I'm Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook, and now, yes, TikTok. Help us, follow us on TikTok, get us to 1,000 followers so we can start doing live shows there as well. Appreciate you all. See you here in just a moment.